As the Black Lives Matter movement picks up momentum around the nation, a question many colleges have had to grapple with is whether or not they should remove monuments or rename buildings with Confederate namesakes. My name's Abby Church, and joining me today for Virginia Reports are Audrey Nakagawa and Abby Sachs as we examine what colleges across the state are doing or aren't doing about controversial buildings and monuments on their campuses. So over at William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia, they've made a couple of moves to remove Confederate monikers from the campus. So one of those is at the Wren building. They had a Confederate memorial over there that only listed the names of Confederates associated with the university who joined the government, but they ended up replacing it with a new plaque that includes the members of Union and Confederate soldiers associated with William and Mary, like alumni, faculty, and students. And they also added a couple of panels dedicated to the enslaved African Americans who built the Wren building, according to a article from the university student newspaper, the Flat Hat. But in addition to that, they've recently come up with a task force, a group dedicated to renaming buildings on campus. So according to a media release from the university, this group is going to be in charge of coming up with other principles for renamings and commemorations across campus, recommending actions for those sites on campus with Confederate names, coming up with the new names, and conducting a landscape review to see if there are other spaces on campus that are not as inclusive. So in addition to that, they have also faced some backlash over their Thomas Jefferson statue, who was a slave owner. W.Y. Daily in Williamsburg reported that the university had to increase security around it after it was vandalized with paint and someone tried to take it down. And they added a security guard to guard the Thomas Jefferson statue.
Richmond, Virginia, home of Virginia Commonwealth University, has been a hotspot for demonstrations and protests regarding racial injustice and police brutality. Of course, this affects their campus. In particular, there was one monument of Confederate soldier Howister, and it was taken down by protesters on their campus. And according to the Commonwealth Times, VCU did not own the monument, but, quote, VCU bought the triangle-shaped green area where the Howitzer statue stood from the city of Richmond in 1989. The purchase made the land and the statue state property, and under the transfer's conditions, VCU maintained the area and needed the city's consent to remove or relocate the statue, end quote. But obviously that was taken down by protesters and not the university itself. In addition to the statue located on campus, protesters forcefully took down the monument of Jefferson Davis on Monument Avenue, as well as a monument of Christopher Columbus in Richmond. And Governor Northam actually ordered the removal of a statue of Robert E. Lee, but the judge, his name is Bradley B. Cavido, blocked the notion indefinitely, and today the statue is still standing in Richmond. I'm going to talk about James Madison University's response to changing the names of Maury, Jackson, and Ashby Halls, all named after Confederate soldiers. First, there was a petition that was circulating social media that demanded the changing of these names, and then JMU's SGA stepped in and drafted a bill of opinion to change the names of those buildings on campus. The bill of opinion needed to be signed by 10% of the student population, and it met its goal. After that, President Alger released his own statement on social media. It was a 10-minute video of him highly encouraging the Board of Visitors to vote to change the name of these buildings. Some alumni expressed concerns that they weren't pleased with President Alger's backing of the student support to change the names of the buildings, and they were also upset that the university did not ask for alumni feedback on the matter. In addition to Maury, Ashby, and Jackson Halls, there has been support and talk to change the names of Wilson Hall, named after Woodrow Wilson, and Harrison Hall, named after Gressner Harrison, a UVA professor known to have been an avid supporter of slavery and loyal to the South.
Talk about Virginia Tech in the wake of the Black Lives Matter protests and the current police brutality. It has inspired a movement in the students at Virginia Tech to rename the dormitory Lee Hall. Lee Hall is named after the Virginia Tech alumnus Claudius Lee, who at the time was the leader of the campus chapter of the KKK. And the students have created a change.org petition, which currently has more than 12,000 signatures, asking the school to rename the dormitory after someone more reflective of Virginia Tech's purported message of inclusivity and diversity. One of the comments underneath the change.org petition is from a student who has lived in this hall, and it says, quote, how is Virginia Tech supposed to be an inclusive university that supports diversity when we still have a dorm named after a KKK member? And in response to this large student movement, President Sands has issued a public statement saying that he will ask the school to review the issue and hopefully rename the dormitory soon. And this has been a recurrent issue. The first time that there was a student movement protesting the renaming of the dorm, it was in 1997. There was another notable protest in 2004. So it has been ongoing, but hopefully these students now feel invigorated by the worldwide movement and the dorm will be renamed. At the University of Virginia, there have been many instances where students have asked the administration to change the name of a building, remove a monument, or recontextualize a monument that has been named after or built in memory of a Confederate or otherwise racist figure. One of the most notable ones is the Whispering Wall. The Whispering Wall is a monument dedicated to a Confederate soldier that sits right in the middle of grounds in front of one of the largest dining halls and largest dormitories. There is currently a change.org petition with around 1,700 signatures asking for the Whispering Wall to be removed because it is so prominent and the history of it has been removed. When you go on tours at the University of Virginia, it's seen as a kind of tourist attraction because on one side of the wall you can whisper and hear the other person, whereas the actual history of it being related to the Confederacy isn't mentioned on tours. Additionally, the Board of Visitors just approved the renaming of Ruffner Hall, and Ruffner Hall is named after William H. Ruffner, who was a slave owner and advocated for segregation post-slavery, and that will be renamed soon to be renamed for Walter Ridley, the first Black man to receive a doctoral degree from UVA.